Welcome to our 11th episode of podcast, CICD podcast. And here we have Tomas. It was our old responsible from the garden, and this is a short interview about his garden experience. So, Tomas, tell us a little about you. Who are you? Why are you here? And which program did you choose?
So, when I first arrived to CICD, it was this one year and 2 or 3 months ago, and I arrived just after I finished my master's in evolutionary biology, and after my entire life only following one path, one road, always knowing what was coming next, what the next step would be, I thought to just completely change this, completely do a different turn of events. So I chose a CICD to help me doing that, and I arrived here with the climate activism program in mind to go to India, and by start this next very different step by doing the Gaia scholarship to raise my own money and go to the project.
I can say that he is definitely an inspiration for all of us that wants to change something, and we can start for changing our own life. So after that, can you tell me how it was your garden experience in a general way?
Yeah, first I can explain like how I ended up in the garden, because it was not on my plans at all. So I did my Gaia, and on the last 2 months the pandemic struck really hard. The COVID got us all by surprise, and all the projects were postponed, both the ones for Africa, both our program, because Rosie's on my team. Our program was also postponed, so we could finish our Gaia, but then we would not start with our formation and preparation and all of it right away. So most of the people left CICD, but they thought I could be a great help in the garden. The previous responsible, Vasile, and I give him here a big homage because of the great work he's done. He was leaving anyway, COVID or no COVID. He was finishing his time here, and they had no one to stay, and they invited me. They thought I could do it, and I thought on that time I was a bit on a crossroads. I didn't know what to do, but I thought like what was going to be like if I went back to Portugal, and what it could be if I stayed here. And in the end, it waited more to stay here. I had a chance to work for the first time with farming, with agriculture, putting my hands on the soil. I had a lot of theoretical knowledge, but from my biology background, but only that is very theoretical. And to really have a notion of how agriculture works, you really have to get your hands on the dirt. So I took the opportunity, and I really feel that I took the best out of it, because it was kind of a lonely summer. We were like 10 people here in CICD. Most of the people were out for all of the day. I was alone most of the times, or only with one person. So it was a different challenge, but I think I took the best out of it. Yes.
Who was before you in the garden? Because I think it was a crucial key for your success.
It was for sure, yeah. This year CICD had the best production of all time, maybe, they told me. And this was mostly because of Vasile and his work before. He planned everything. He started to plant. He was working by himself, for most of the time, digging soil like crazy, preparing everything. So when I got to the garden, it was with the engine already going. And I just had to take care of it and to keep it going. So yeah, I do a big homage to Vasile, because he was a crucial part, as you said.
And to be more specific, since you are going in this road, can you tell us what it was already planted and what did you plant?
When I started, the onions and garlic were almost ready. We could take, and carrots we could take them out. We had some beetroot going, some radish, we had the Three Sisters going. That it's a system with 3 different types of vegetables, with corn, with beans, with courgettes and buttersquash, or either courgette or either buttersquash. They're all the same family. So we had pumpkins going. We had the potatoes. We managed to took out 1.5 tons of potatoes from our ground.
It's a lot.
Yes, and that was Vasile. Half the work was Vasile doing it, to prepare all the potatoes. He was digging beds by himself. Those huge beds, and even a lot of people worked, but yeah, he was the main driver for all of it. Yeah, we had the potatoes, pumpkin,
Fruits.
we had some fruit, we had strawberries, raspberries, we had the apple trees, and inside we had the tomatoes and peppers. That was, Vasile started with the peppers. The tomatoes were one of the first things I did. I transplanted them. The seeds were almost all Vasile preparing. Like when I took over, then I put some more seeds to try and all of that. But the main ones was also Vasile starting the seeds, like planting the seeds on February, March, April. Yeah.
Can you tell us about the big issues or the big fights that you had in the garden?
Oof. Yes. Yes.
Because I know some with the palm cabbage and the tomatoes.
No, yeah, for sure. Like when I started, I only had one real problem to deal with, were the slugs. Here we have a real problem with slugs, and since we don't use any chemicals at all the other solutions were kind of useless. We tried many solutions that only worked for 1 day, 2 days, and then the slug would come back. I found the most effective way to take care of the problem was to come by night and pick the slugs one by one by hand, put them on a flask, and next day they would be a breakfast for the chicken.
So we also have chickens in the garden.
Oh yes, it's true. Also that was a constant part of it, because chicken, you have to go every day in the morning and by the afternoon to check how they are, change the water and give them food and take the eggs out. On the summer they would produce between around 15 eggs a day.
Wow.
Which was a lot, yes. We had too many eggs for the people that were here. I was baking cakes to use the eggs.
Overproduction.
Yeah.
And
So yeah, with the slugs, like the best way was to come by night and go around the garden with one hand pick them up, and with the other my light of the phone, and going like a crazy man with the light on my phone, picking the slugs alone in the garden, completely dark, picking them one by one around midnight or something. So I did that like 5 times. 4 times too many, I guess. One should have been enough for me to say no, I cannot do this anymore. But yeah, I did it sometimes, and it worked, because then it was like their activity came down, but then they reproduce and come again.
I remember that I also worked in the garden with them, and I'm vegan, and they were super against the slugs. They wanted to kill them all. So every time that I
Because
found
you've seen
one,
what the slugs do, right?
yeah,
It's like,
they destroy the production. But every time that I found one, I was trying to protect it. So I walk really far away from the garden, and I will release them for free in the freedom and come back in the garden. But every time that Vasile saw it, he wanted to kill it.
Vasile used a hammer.
No.
He was very aggressive with the slugs. I was not so aggressive, because by picking them up, I would get 100
Yeah.
one night. And then I look at the flask full of slugs, and I was like, I cannot kill them. Yeah,
No.
it feels like a genocide. So, really, like
It goes against what we are
I was
learning
like,
here.
I was looking at them, and I could not do it, like kill like 100 slugs. So I figured I can give them to the chicken, and it's kind of more natural.
Good.
So I found a good way to do it, I guess.
I think so too.
Yes.
And tomatoes?
Yes. Then the slugs were always a constant, but they were not too bad. Like they would eat some plants, but they don't kill the plants. They eat it a bit, the plant can grow more and can give some production after. Like the cabbage. Now they started to produce more in November because the slugs in November are less active. So the cabbage survived all summer, always being eaten, but always producing more. And in November, it produced very nice leaves. So the slugs are very annoying, but they're not very dramatic. Then in August, I started having a fungus inside the greenhouse. Two different fungus actually. One started on the tobacco plants, and then the other started on the tomato plants. And yeah, that was also a big fight. I had to work a lot to keep it under control. I would check the plants daily. I would cut the parts that showed fungi. I tried some different solution, always organic, like one to change the pH of the plant, because changing the pH makes it harder for the fungus to spread. So I was trying ways to do this organically. Then I found online an organic fungicide. I found on a storage, like full of dirt, one of these bags that
the spray.
Yeah, like a bag. It's a bag with a tank, and then it has a spray, and you spray them. And it's very fast to spray them like this. And originally it's for chemicals, but I managed to use it to use this organic fungicide. So yeah, that was a daily job to check the tomatoes and then to keep the fungi out. But I think my effort was very rewarding, because in the end we got a lot of very nice tomatoes. So I never managed to defeat the fungus, because the fungus was always there, very prevalent, but I managed to keep it under control, and some tomato plants died, but I managed to keep a lot of them.
They are really good and tasty.
Yes, and the last battle is not to be forgotten.
The rats.
Yes, now with the winter coming, the rats are also coming, and the rats installed inside the fucking greenhouse, and outside they also have some nests that we managed to destroy, but inside we still are trying to find solutions, and they were very, very destructive. Like they would just chew on plants just for chew. They would not even eat them. The slugs, they go, they eat what they need, and they stop. The rats go and destroy everything. They don't care.
So you are more aggressive with rats?
Yes, for sure. Yes,
no.
Yes. Because they are bastards. It's true, like I had this flower that when I arrived to the garden, it was like this, like just a small sprout with tiny leaves, very sweet. And in November, October or November, it was already like this, big, beautiful, with many branches, very elegant, very thin and elegant, and very healthy. One morning I arrived to the garden and it was beaten on 5 different places. Like, broken in pieces. So it's like a work of months destroyed in one night for nothing, because they did not eat it. They just threw it. So yeah, they are bastards. I don't care about them.
So your advice to next gardeners or volunteers in the garden?
Advice: these 3 things will happen again, for sure. Next season we'll have slugs, we'll have fungi, we'll have rats.
Prevention.
So just work very hard on prevention, because for example, if I knew about fungi, I could have done some prevention, like prepared fungicides before, started before it appears, or started with the solutions that change the pH. I could start doing something before, but I didn't know. And for sure next season it will be, because the spores are inside, and we had a lot of fungi this year, so next year it will appear again for sure. If you plant tomatoes or any other kind of sensible plant, it will appear. So, or plant something inside that is not sensible to fungi, or if you plant tomatoes, be aware that you're going to have fungus. So yeah, a prevention.
Prevention.
That's a good advice.
And I know that our garden is zero waste. So everything that we collect or that we harvest is for food, or otherwise is for compost and fertilizer.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. We had Yeah, all the plants and all the soil that we are not using goes to the compost. We have several compost bins, and I know there are many kind of a proportion for compost. I do not pay much attention to this. I just kind of distribute stuff by eye, and I try to make a good compost that will be ready in like 2, 3, 4 years. And for the moment, we're actually using some compost that was prepared before. I don't know who prepared it, but it's ready, and we're using it. So it's a natural fertilizer, organic, that we use based on one plant, comfrey. It's a plant that grows like a weed. You can have it by the walls of your garden. You can have it in a corner. It grows very easily. Like we have around, even like in the fields. And you just cut the leaves. You put on a bin. It's good to leave the bin on a kind of warm place by putting it inside the greenhouse. You put a bit of water and a rock on top to compress the leaves. It decomposes for 2 weeks. Then you add more water and it's ready. And it's a very good fertilizer because the comfreys have very deep roots and they reach nutrients that other plants have more difficulty to reach. It's not so easy for most of the plants to get those nutrients. And then the comfrey fixates the nutrients on the leaves, and by decomposing it releases to the water, and then it's a very good fertilizer. And the tomatoes grew amazingly, only with it, and tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers.
It was really nice to have him with us. And I have one last question, that is, why you love us so much?
Who? Who specifically?
Me and Churcho.
Why?
Yes.
Well, it's very nice to have you on my team, because I know how can I trust each one of you. I know for what I can trust you. I know when and how I can help you when you need. So we managed to get to know each other very well, both in work and not work conditions. And I feel very good to have you on my team, because I know I can work with both of you very well.
This seems a really silly and stupid question, but actually I think the answer shows how CICD manages with interrelationships between teams. That was my point.
Yeah, it's true. We are very different people, but this brought us together.
Yes.
Yeah, CICD does that. Brings people that have very different backgrounds, and just show everyone that if you are aiming in the same direction, you can work together.
It's true. Like to have 2 killers in the garden and 2 vegan girls working with
Yeah, that's very fun.
That's it. Thank you guys for watching and listening.
Cheers.
And I hope that we bring you more exciting material.